congratulate Mr Muller for bringing this piece of legislation to the House.
I call Andrew Bailey.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I've got to say it's an absolute pleasure to be speaking on this bill introduced by my good friend and colleague, the good member from Plenty, who, of course, has spent 20 years in the agriculture sector and many parts of it, not only in the dairy industry but in the kiwi fruit and a whole raft of other areas. And I think it's only right and just that he brings such a good bill to the House. And also I'd just like to acknowledge the Speaker just standing before, who has noted that the Labor coalition government is going to support this bill, which I commend him as well. So it's actually a very simple bill, Madam Speaker, and it's about changing Section 53 of the Principal Act, the Companies Act, which states that to avoid doubt, nothing in subsection 2 prevents the constitution of a company, providing that shares in a class do not confer a right to receive dividends in the circumstances specified in the Constitution. So some people will be wondering what that means, Madam Speaker. And I know you all know you have a firm, steady grasp of these issues, as you do on many things, Madam Speaker. But for those people who are not quite so financially literate, what this means is that there are many businesses that are established under the Companies Act and are, in effect, companies, but operate as cooperatives. And that's where the issue lies, and this is what Mr Muller's bill is trying to address. And when you say, well, there's not that many cooperatives, well, in fact, there are a raft of them. And if you think of the main one, most people can think of Fonterra as a cooperative, but even in the dairy sector, you've got Tatua Dairy, you've got Westland down the South Island. If you think about the food type of thing, foodstuffs are the classic. And my good colleague over here, Mr Dan Bidwar, the good new member from Northcote, of course, worked at foodstuffs until very recently, until he got elected. And then in the meat industry, we've got Silverfern Farms Alliance. These are all companies but operating as cooperatives. Then we've got other farming industries such as farmlands, which is supplying. Then we've got the medical insurance industry, Southern Cross Medical Insurance. Then every Saturday, most of you at some stage will be going down, I say that, Madam Speaker, I mean all members, going down to places like Maitaten. And the last one, which is an interesting one, is Livestock Improvement Corporation. Now, many people won't realise that it is a company, it is a cooperative, but it's also listed on the New Zealand Stock Exchange. It has a market cap of about 85 million, and it's got 11,000 dairy farmers that are members of it. And so what this bill is doing, it creates the opportunity to be able to structure the cooperative's affairs that meet the practicality of what really goes on. So many people, whether it's in a medical assurance arrangement or whatever, might become a member of the cooperative and therefore be entitled to a share and a right to a dividend and a voting right, those three aspects that should normally make up a corporate-type arrangement. And what the thing about the Act at the moment, the Companies Act, is that it's very unclear. It's a technical bill, but it is unclear to the extent that to differentiate the different types of rights of the shareholder is not actually that clear. It's particularly under clause 36 that people have noted before. So this bill, which I think is a great bill, creates the opportunity for people to structure their affairs. And in many cases, we're talking about dry and wet shares, which dry shares are people who have previously supplied to the cooperative but no longer supply those goods or services, but still want to remain with that cooperative. And this provides a mechanism to allow those people to remain, have full rights as a shareholder, full rights, voting right, but just what they might do with the dividend flows and things like that. And so it's a creative, it's much more permissive, and it's much more appropriate because it does reflect reality. And of course, there's strong, overwhelming support from this, particularly from the cooperative sector. And I think Zespri, which is probably one of the most well-known of all these, is one of the strong proponents, and I fully endorse this good bill.
Madam Speaker.
Dr Duncan Webb.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.